So from the moment we are born and brought into this world until the moment we die, we inhabit a single body. And through that body, we have a lot of senses, and we perceive the world in a lot of different ways. But at the end of the day, we see through one set of eyes, we hear through two ears, and that gives us a very singular viewpoint of the world. When perception becomes reality, we all exist in our own individual realities. And, we can't really step into someone else's body and see the world through their eyes. But what if we could? Hi, I'm Cameron. I am a multimedia artist, a filmmaker, a director, and immersive creator. My background is in filmmaking, like live action filmmaking. I got my BFA from the USC School of Cinematic Arts, studying production. Always more into the experimental side of cinema. My work often explores and tries to discover beauty where you would least expect it. For instance, my last film was about a man who transforms his dead wife's body into a piano, and he sits at the piano and plays their wedding march, and it brings her back to life. So I love doing the unexpected. I love combining disparate elements to make something beautiful where you might not see it otherwise. So that kind of exploration of experimental cinema naturally led to immersive, because immersive is the most experimental cinema. There are no rules yet. We're all discovering them. Specifically, it was a moment when, I was raised in a Baptist family in Texas, in Fort Worth, Texas. And so I never came out of the closet as queer, not through high school, not through college, until deep in the pandemic, I was kind of forced out of the closet. And my family obviously did not take it very well. We still don't talk. And so kind of in that turbulent outing and in that isolation of what felt like losing a safe space, I kind of had the question of how could VR be used to build a safe space when a safe space in the real world can be hard to find. And so that's where I had the idea for this piece called Body of Mine. And so I had this idea of what if you could step into the shoes of someone else, specifically someone with gender dysphoria, and see the world through their eyes, and look into a mirror and see the reflection of a gender you don't identify with, in order to more deeply imagine and understand what gender dysphoria could be like. Obviously, VR can never fully capture something as complex as gender dysphoria, but maybe it could help people get one step closer to understanding. The only problem was I had never made a VR thing. I had never used Unreal. I had never programmed. I didn't know what I was doing. But I had amazing people around me, and I had really great stories to tell. So Body of Mine started just by sitting on my bedroom floor with some of my closest trans friends, just talking about, with a mic, the parts of the body that they like, that they don't like, and what makes them human. And once we had those audio interviews, then it was a matter of how do we create a space where you can engage with them on a more deep level. And so we created, an environment using Unreal. We used generative AI to help us. We created this grotesque rib cage that wraps around you with a heart and lungs, this very dysphoric place, but also a genderless space. And we created these avatars that you could step into. We used Unreal Engine to do it. ChatGPT helped us write our code so that we could scrape together something as a first-time project. It was definitely an ambitious project, but copy-paste C++ from ChatGPT can get you pretty far. So we used their metahuman creators to create bodies, all sorts of bodies, male, female, non-binary, all the range in between. That invited cisgender audiences to step into a body that's different than they have, but also a space where genderqueer people can inhabit a body that's euphoric to them. And you step into this body, and we mapped those interviews that we collected to physical parts of your body so that by touching them, you hear them. So if you touch your chest, you would hear a trans woman talk about top surgery. Or if you touched your stomach, you would hear a trans man talking about his pregnancy. And so by using that tactile sense of touch, we foster a really much more intimate and deep connection to the stories you're hearing. So you step into this space and you're literally, fully embodied. You look down, you see your hands moving, you look in the mirror, you see your eyes blinking. We're using an eye tracking headset, Vive trackers, to map every single movement onto this new avatar. At the time, we were using Vive trackers, which were super cool, but also super frustrating. If you're at South by Southwest last year, it was horrible. A lot of things are literally super glued to a headset. Now we are here. We just last week launched on Quest. Shout out to Agile Lens, our amazing studio, who helped us get that crazy thing down to just a headset using Meta's Movement SDK. They've got these like AI-powered legs. Maybe you've seen a viral video where Mark Zuckerberg cheated and showed off legs that don't exist, but they kind of exist, and we're using them to deliver a full body experience with just a headset, which is amazing because now people around the world can experience Body of Mind, use it to show, trans kids can use it to show their parents, to have conversations around gender dysphoria. Right now, we're working to put the experience in LGBT centers around the country so people, even without access to VR headsets, can experience Body of Mind and use it to foster more deep conversations around identity and gender dysphoria. But we wanted to more deeply understand, here's those legs. We wanted to more deeply understand the actual impact of what a piece like this can be. And so we partnered with the Department of Psychology in Germany to analyze and understand how this piece was impacting people's sense of body image, as well as like the empathy that was generated. And this is what we discovered. We used these validated instruments to understand body acceptance, as well as body dissatisfaction. And we found a measurable decrease in body dissatisfaction coming out of Body of Mind, as well as an increase in body acceptance coming out of Body of Mind. These are the analyzed results. And I want to look at just like a few specific questions that I personally find very interesting. These are some questions about embodiment. Some people feel very embodied, some people don't. There's a lot of factors of this. How much have you done VR? How critical are you of VR? But when we look at some of the pre and post questions, you can see that people coming out, what's interesting to me as a creator is that things that aren't directly addressed in Body of Mind were still being impacted. For instance, how sexy do you feel? Like, people actually felt sexier after Body of Mind. That's pretty cool. People felt skinnier too. Like, that's dope. Like, people felt more like comfortable in their weight. Like, people were coming out being like, oh yeah, okay, like I feel better about my weight, which was not directly addressed in Body of Mind, but what Body of Mind does, if you haven't experienced it for yourself, is it allows you to, it doesn't just put you in one body. You cycle through all these different bodies. You go through all these different shapes and colors and genders and sizes. And at the end of the day, the message is we're all a human being. We might come in all these different shapes and sizes, but we all still have a heart that beats. We have a soul that shines. And when you really feel that message on an embodied and physical level, it does impact the way that you feel about yourself, and it can foster a lot of gender euphoria, body euphoria, just overall pleasant feelings about yourself, feeling more one with your body, feeling more aligned with the present moment, as well as people coming out understanding the concept of gender dysphoria. This study was done pretty much just like in a random like public space. It wasn't at like a VR conference. These were really mostly people coming in off the street. A lot of them who when we asked, are you cisgender? What's cisgender? And we have to explain what cisgender is. So, these are, I think, pretty honest results. So that's super cool. And I think that, I guess one slide that I forgot to put in there was we asked the question of how much do you identify with the struggles of trans people? And that also significantly went up. And I think that's super important because it's one thing to say, oh, your experience is your own, and I'll try to support you. But when you actually see yourself in the struggles of someone else, that's a much more deeper sense of sympathy and empathy that you generate. What Body of Mind does is communicate that the struggles that trans people have are, very similar to the struggles a lot of us have. A lot of us struggle with looking in a mirror and having parts of our body that we like and don't like. Whether that manifests in our weight, our appearance, of hair where we don't want it, no matter what, we all struggle in some way with our bodies. And that's what gender dysphoria is. It's just, it's that manifested in a different way. And so when you really get people to understand that, they're not that dissimilar from a trans person, for a lot of people, that's like a breakthrough moment. And it's very cool to have been able to take that around the world. Body of Mind won the Producers Guild of America Innovation Award. It won the South by Southwest Special Jury Award. It won a BAFTA Student Award. It won Best XR Games for Change, and more. And now I'm super excited to talk about a new project that I actually have an exclusive sneak preview here. It's not officially released, but it is a work in progress. And this project kind of continues that exploration of what does it mean to see the world through someone's eyes and be in their body. Body of Mind was about kind of that visual sense of embodiment, of proprioception, of feeling embodied in someone else's skin. This new project is about feeling someone's body. It's about using haptics to feel someone's heartbeat, to feel their pulse, feel their breath. And specifically with this project, also to feel the tremors of the electroshock treatment that this trans woman endured. So this project is about conversion therapy, and it uses wearable haptic devices that allow you to feel the currents of electricity as this woman discusses the electroshock treatment that she endured. When she's older now, so this happened like 30, 40 years ago, but when she was struggling with gender dysphoria, she was told by the hospital, by people who were trying to help her, that a treatment for gender dysphoria was electroshock. And so they showed her photos of women and electrocuted her randomly. This happened on several appointments. And so she associated being a woman with pain. And so the whole rest of her life, she had to recover from that trauma. And when you get someone to hate themselves, that's trauma that doesn't go away. And so that's what this message, and that's what this piece is about. Conversion therapy still happens. It happens in the US, it happens here in LA. Different types of it happen. There's electroshock, which doesn't happen so much in the Western world, thankfully, but there's talk therapy, there's exorcisms that do happen in the US, which are equally harmful. And so this piece is really about using haptics to put yourself in that situation. Imagine, like, what if I was electrocuted? What if I had to undergo shock therapy for being who I was? And so these are the devices that we're using. It's a B-haptics vest and sleeves and gloves. That allow you to really localize like haptic feedback. So you can get something as precise as a heartbeat or a pulse, or the streams of neurons in our bodies to really feel inhabited in someone else's body on a very somatic level. So I invite everyone to kind of come. We have a booth at the back of the expo hall. It's hard to miss. We've got a big open space with rainbow lights on the ground. Just look for the rainbow. Just be like Dorothy, find the end of the rainbow bridge, and you will find us. And we are happy to electrocute you free of charge. Because they actually gave her a bill on her way out, so I won't do that to you. This is just a little bit about how you can localize the haptics, but just to close out before I open it up for questions and just Q&A, is just a question of how we can go beyond these spheres and really use this medium for change. Personally, sometimes it feels like at these events we're all kind of showing each other our work, which is awesome, and we love seeing each other's work, and we should definitely do that. But I think one of the biggest challenges that we all face as creators in this space is how do we get beyond that bubble? How do we get people who don't have a headset into the headset to have these transformative experiences? How do we get people who maybe can't access that, who can't afford a headset to do these? How do we get people who wouldn't go and buy a trans thing off the Quest store to experience a trans thing? And that's a really tough problem. It's something that there is no one clear answer for, but it is something that I think we all need to make an active effort of making sure that, one thing that we did last week is take Body of Mind to LA Pride and celebrate queer joy with just people who mostly had never done VR before at a Pride event. We're now putting into LGBT centers, like I already mentioned. And so it really does take an active commitment to get beyond this kind of festival sphere and into the real world to really make an impact. So there's about 10 minutes left, and I just want to kind of open up the floor to any questions, either about my work or about anything. I wanted this to kind of be a conversation that is constructive and informative for anyone who might have questions.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm gonna come all the way to the back. Our first lucky contestant.
All right, great talk, thank you. This is so interesting because, personally, I have experience trying to use XR as an empathy building tool to see something from a different perspective. I love what you said about doing both, the chance for somebody to experience dysphoria or somebody else to experience euphoria. Seeing both sides of it is really interesting. Do you have any personal anecdotes or examples that you've seen where people's eyes were really changed on either side of those spectrums?
Definitely. I'll tell you the times where we did it right, and I'll tell you the times where we fucked it up. So if you find my TikTok, we have some videos where people are coming out of Body of Mind just like crying. Parents of children being like, "Oh, my kid needs to see this next," just like weeping. People just really, really moved. Usually, actually, cisgender people who suddenly have this breakthrough moment about their bodies and about things maybe that they haven't thought about as much. People who have gender dysphoria are typically thinking more about their body anyways, but for people who tried not to think about their bodies, being put in that experience can be really powerful. So a lot of really, really emotional reactions coming from that. A lot of people really coming out understanding gender dysphoria, but we also fucked it up, and we also did trial and error. There were times where we would put like I once put like a trans man into like a female body because I wrongly assumed that they were cisgender, and thankfully we're homies now. It was all good. But I felt so terrible after that, and I was like, oh, that was, I shouldn't have assumed anything, and that was a very constructive learning moment. And so from that, we redesigned the new adaptation that's now on Quest to the first thing that you get asked is, have you personally experienced gender dysphoria? Because it's a very inclusive way of asking, like, without having to self-identify, it's a very inclusive way of asking like whether or not someone might be triggered by the body that they're going to be in. If you say yes, you just get to choose whatever body you want to go in so that you kind of have that euphoric moment. And if you say no, I've not experienced gender dysphoria, then we're going to assume you're probably cisgender, and we're going to ask you like, okay, are you a man or a woman? And then we're going to swap. But we only got there after messing it up a couple times.
Thank you. Great question. I think I saw, yes.
Yeah, really cool work. I am at Bellevue College as XR Lab coordinator, and I want to have, I do have the opportunity to share new experiences with a bunch of our faculty, staff, and students. For both of these projects, is that something that other people can do, or do you create a guide or an FAQ to guiding users to successfully navigate from all of your learned lessons?
If you're talking about from like a creation standpoint?
Conducting the experience when you aren't running it. Is it something that other people can do to help share it?
Oh yeah, to experience them. Yeah, so absolutely. So we teamed up with an amazing studio called Agilence to release it on Quest. So Body of Mind you can actually just go and download now, and it's totally self-guided. You shouldn't struggle too much. There's like one quick calibration, but it tells you what to do. It's like one button. Compared to like the all the calibration of the Vive trackers, it's super, super easy. So yeah, Body of Mind, you just go on the Quest store. Thanks to Meta, we're on the official storefront. Just go to the store, search Body of Mind, it's right there. So that one definitely, and then the conversion therapy one will follow suit in about a year. Our plan is to hopefully like premiere it in the fall or the spring, and then we will do the same thing, get it on standalone Quest, put it out on the store so that everyone can download it. Still figuring out what to do about the haptics because they're such an important part of it, and that's pretty niche. But at least Body of Mind you can.
We got a haptic vest.
Oh my God! Then yes, absolutely. Well, then just hit me up. I'll just send you a build. And for right now, that product is PCVR, so you have to use a link cable. So that shouldn't be an issue, and then it'll be standalone, in probably about this time next year.
Cool. I'll be in touch.
Okay, word.
Congratulations. Yeah, that's fantastic. Do we have time for one or two more?
Yeah, we got like 5 minutes left.
Oh, great. So we've got time for 2 questions. Yes, I just walked right by you. Sorry. Okay, here you are.
Hi, this was phenomenal. Curious about the study that you were talking about earlier. Is that published? Can I have access to it?
Yeah.
I want to dive in, so.
Totally. It's being published right now. I'm in the peer review process
Right
for
on.
a journal called Meeting Communications. And so I'm happy to send you a draft of it that is undergoing the peer review and is still open for feedback. I'm happy to share those results with you.
Sounds
But
great.
the plan is for it to be published in that journal in the fall.
Right on. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I wanted to know too. Next. Yes.
Not so much a question, but a little bit of a comment. You noted being surprised about people feeling skinnier after going through. I would posit that when people feel like they are in the right body, that those feelings of body dysmorphia tend to disappear. And so helping people with that interoception makes total sense to me, that their opinions of their body might be improved as well.
Totally, yeah. Thank you for that comment. Yeah, and I was making just like a cheeky joke by using the word skinny because I think it's much more complex than that. But totally, it's like you kind of go through this very embodied yet disembodied experience of looking down and constantly seeing all these bodies like flow through you, and all of a sudden you kind of come back to yours. And it was surprising doing the festival tour and showing so many people. It was surprising the specific reactions. We had one girl who went through and she had a scar on her knee from an accident, and it was a part of her body that she didn't really like. She didn't like looking at the scar. She was angry about it. And then she went through Body of Mine and she was looking at her like she didn't have it, and it almost made her like miss it. And then she came back into her body in real life and she was like, oh my God, I have this like profound new connection to the scar that I used to not like, but all of a sudden like it was taken away from me, and I felt like a part of me was missing, and now I really appreciate that part of my body. So really just like specific therapeutic applications of it that I would have never imagined creating it, that is just really, really cool to see. You never know how your baby's gonna impact people until it's out there, and then you're like, wow.
That's so beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, and how much we can all learn from ourselves. I had one. Okay, all right. We have a clarification question.
So I have a question. When you were building this experience, throughout that process, what did you find was most important to making it believable? I guess what I'm trying to say, I think there would be a lot of ways to make it, it's hard to get it right. And I'm curious if there were like eye-opening moments or things you all did in order to like really make that experience come to life.
That's a very good question. That's a very, very good question. A few thoughts that like immediately come to head. I'm of the philosophy that emotional realism is like paramount in an experience, and if you can get someone to like emotionally buy into something, then they're willing to forgive a lot. Not even just forgive, like they will just believe a lot. So for us, like the biggest thing was just authenticity, of just creating, beyond just a literal regurgitation of real life, being artistic and using that artistic side to create something that is emotionally real, and can kind of capture those feelings of gender euphoria and dysphoria. So, all the interviews that we did are super raw, super vulnerable. It's me and friends, so they sound very intimate. It doesn't sound like you're listening to a stranger. It sounds like you're listening to a friend. So you get this like intimacy through the audio. But then there's like specific things that in VR you can do that really, really get there. For a big one for us was eye tracking. The ability to like look in a mirror and blink and see yourself blink back is like very, very immersive and very believable. If you do Body of Mine on a Quest Pro, you can get that. You get that in the face tracking. That and really just, I think it's emotional realism of, I'm all about creating visual metaphors to communicate things that go beyond words. So in Body of Mine, kind of like the iconic image is like this heart, this like pulsing, beating heart that transforms into a strawberry, and it's like a message about like accepting our bodies. And so you go through this very euphoric atmosphere, and it does, heighten the realism of everything else.
Thank you so much for that. So I think it's is it on now? All right, thank you. I see you have a question. I'm unfortunately going to need to wrap. This has been so amazing. Cam, will you be out here for any further questions?
Yeah, I'll hang out over here.
Everyone, give yourselves a hand, because I feel like we've all really learned something right now. I have a lump in my throat. Thank you so much for everything, Cam, for what you've done for other people, for the queer community, and for everybody. And thank you, everyone here. You are lights, because you're going to take this information and share it with other people. So it's really meaningful that you are here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.